Hello and welcome to Fully Charged. This is Portugal, this is the Peugeot e-208, and I'm going to have a first drive and tell you everything I know, and maybe Peugeot knows, about it. When I first saw this car in the metal at Geneva Motor Show, I just thought it looked great. Peugeot design is really slick, and I know you could say it's a bit fancy pants with the sort of line scratching, claw scratching of the lights front and back. Forget all that. I just think it's a really good design. This is going to be the same underpinnings as the, I can't call it Citroën, I have to call it the DS3. The DS3 Crossback, it's E-Tense, which is the same chassis as this, and the Corsa-e is the same chassis as this. They're all the same family, the PSA family. But this is the one I'm sort of most keen on, because really this is, in terms of looks and drivetrain and everything, this is the new Renault Zoe's arch enemy. The WLTP range is 211 miles. It's 135 horsepower, 100 kilowatt electric motor that sits under the front. It's a 50 kilowatt hour battery pack. 260 to 300 newton meters of torque. It's 8.1 seconds to 62. No, it's not Tesla ludicrous mode or anything like that. Price reflects that. So your £25,050 starting price is an on-the-road price, and that does include the government grant. So 25 base model, 29 and a bit top spec. Basically what you're getting here with the 208 is a slightly lighter than the Zoe, faster to 62 than the Zoe, but less WLTP range than the Zoe. And it's a more aggressive looking car than the Zoe. I'm not going to say better looking, because beauty is in the eye of the cup holder. However, what I would say is I think Peugeot are designing some brilliant looking things, both inside and outside at the moment. And I've very much been looking forward to driving this car. Okay, so in the cabin, you've got this thing which is a trend for Peugeots these days, to have a not circular steering wheel. I mean, I don't know how many sides it's got. It basically looks like a 20 pence piece, and it's quite small. And Peugeot have made the steering wheel small so that you can see the gauge cluster more easily, and I guess you can feel more in touch with the car. Back in the old days, you'd fit a smaller steering wheel to an old car if you wanted to make it feel more sporty. So I kind of get it. I've adjusted the rake, it's got a good amount of adjustment. And this sort of binocular style instrument binnacle, which seems to have grab handles, which is a bit freaky. It's very 3D, very 3D, and that is available on the higher spec cars, and we'll come to the specs in a minute. But it's kind of 3D effect in there. It's tunneled in. I remember a little LED or LCD video game that you put up to your eyes like binoculars, and play some kind of flight simulator in the mid-80s. They look like that. So I've got my power, my charge level, got my speedometer, got my battery status down on the left, got 100. I've started this road test with 120 kilometers of battery power. There's a couple of drive modes, and they're here next to the electric handbrake. It has an electric handbrake as standard, even though the base model piston cars don't. That's a shame, but I like manual handbrakes, but I'm a Luddite. So we're in eco mode now. I can immediately feel the throttle being pared down. I'll put it back into sport, then you get your sensitivity. Let's drive it for a while on these quiet roads in sports mode. The petrol, the diesel, the electric, they're all the same body shell, they're all the same platform. But how do you differentiate this from the diesel and petrol brothers? Well, there's a few subtle differences, and they are pretty subtle. What was chrome on the petrol and diesels, these accents on this big grille, on the electric car, they are body coloured. So the DRLs, the daytime running lights, which are these kind of fangs, I don't know what they are. They're really cool though when you see them driving along. Because they go down so low, Peugeot says they act as fogs as well. So these stay on, And then these are your actual main headlights. The battery pack is water cooled, so you'll get air in there which can talk to the heat pump. There's a heat pump in there. Yes, it's front wheel drive, yes, it's front motored. Okay, so there's 4 specs of 208 available. The entry level is called the Active, and it starts at £25,000, including a government grant. And what you get for your 25 grand is you get 16-inch steel wheels, you get gloss wing mirrors, you get auto wipers as standard, you get climate control, auto climate control, you get preheat function as standard on the EVs. The EVs get gloss wheel arch extensions when the petrol and diesels don't. You get your dichroic embossed badging because it's E. You do get manual wind down rear windows on the base model, so it depends if you care about stuff like that. You get orange stitching on the seats and a leather steering wheel, and that's about it. Then if you want to go one step up, you go to the Allure trim. You get 16-inch alloy wheels, not Steelies. You get the iCockpit head-up style display, which is very cool. You get leather effect seating, which probably isn't that cool, but you do get light blue stitching. You get one-touch electric windows at the back, and you get one other thing. Oh, wireless charging for your phone. Yeah, then that comes, and then you go to the next step, which is GT line. GT line means you get frameless rear view mirror, you get active safety braking systems that work at night as well as the day, you get LED headlights and tail lights, 17-inch diamond cut alloy wheels and a perforated leather steering wheel, and maybe some lime green stitching if my memory serves correct. It does serve me correct. What is the GT pack? Well, the GT pack has a lot more safety features. It has fully assisted parking or automated parking. It has other things, I just can't remember them all because there's loads. You get the 3D iCockpit with the 10-inch touchscreen. You get the lane positioning assist. You get blind spot monitoring. You get the Alcantara trim seats, which are really nice, like a triple type of trim. You get front heated seats as standard. You get your piano key toggle switches, which I'm going to show you in a minute because they're neat. And you get adaptive cruise, £29,500 or £25,000 for your entry level. I'm with Annalise, and you're the brand manager of the low emission vehicle sector of this, aren't you?
Yes, so indeed, for Peugeot, yes.
You have been with this car from the start. The electric car goes on sale at the same time as the diesel and the petrol. They're all going out
at the same time, yes.
In terms of deliveries for customers, is this car going to start being delivered in January 2020?
So yes, deliveries start from early 2020, yes.
Yeah. And they're making this on the production line in Slovakia alongside the petrol and diesel derivatives. In other words, it has been designed from square one to be a car that can cope with diesel powertrain, petrol powertrain or electric, and the reason for that is A, they all share the same production line, which is good for costs and speed, and B, it means when the world's trends change, Peugeot can adapt quickly. So if suddenly everyone wants to buy diesel again, which they won't, they can build more diesels. If suddenly electric sales go massive, they can ramp up electrification. Peugeot says that you're hoping to sell maybe 19% of the 208s being EV.
What we see already from the orders right now is that it's quite high. We're between, around 25 now at the end of September, which are for electric versions.
Oh, really?
But that could lower down because clearly we think there's first people wanting to have the electric car first and showing interest for that car.
Yeah.
But overall for next year, we target 10% of our sales in Europe.
Also, is it true that you'll be able to buy an e-208 from any Peugeot dealer?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, and you can have it serviced at any Peugeot dealer?
Yes, you can
so
have it
serviced. So it's not specific
yes.
high voltage networks, it's just every Peugeot dealer is trained in EV?
All dealers are trained either to be able to sell them. We want everybody to sell also electric cars. As we said, it's not a specific car, just one engine, so everybody should be able to sell them and to service them. All dealers are able to service an e-208. It's only specific interventions on the battery itself that could be for specific dealers.
Okay.
But otherwise to service and to the regular maintenance, all the regular interventions interventions that you do on a car, everybody is able to do that.
Which makes it easier because you've got lots of dealers already.
Yes, the battery packs. So they are implemented both underneath the rear seats and the front seats.
Yeah.
So really not to have an impact on the habitability of the car, because we said it's produced on the same line, but the car is really exactly the same inside.
Well, I had a ride in a diesel yesterday, and footwells are the same.
Yes, exactly.
Boot space is the same.
Boot space is the same, yes, and also in terms of road handling. Yeah. As you know, the battery is more weight to the car.
Is it 300 kilos on this car?
So the battery itself is 340 kilos.
Yeah, yeah.
But we also gain some elements versus a petrol or diesel. So overall, it's plus 310 kilos.
Okay.
But it's yes, still
but lower weight.
Lower weight.
I guess.
Lower center of gravity also. So clearly.
That's a good thing.
Yes. In terms of road handling and sensations, yes, it's very nice.
It's very smooth, as you'd expect it to be. But what I'm feeling right now is I really like the steering. And certainly the front suspension is pretty good. The back feels a little soft to me, which is pretty common for a lot of French cars. They're more calibrated for comfort rather than performance. But then these roads are patchy, a little bit patchy. One thing I'm definitely feeling is the steering. The steering is really quick. It's very, very, it's kind of classy. That's what I think about it. The Zoe's much more simple. The Zoe is more down your Tesla Model 3 kind of aesthetic model. This is more sort of Taycan. Yeah, or more modern e-Golf. They've not tried to copy anybody, inside or out, which I do like. You've got this lovely black bar which goes across, which says Peugeot. I think it's got an air of class to it. In darker colours, this is sort of lost. But in white and yellow and in this colour, I think it looks really good with the tinted glass here. This has got a two-tone roof and a little roof spoiler. It just says e-208. So again, subtle badging. It's not really being very shouty. GT tells you you've bought the top of the range one, but it's handsome, right? It's a better looking car than the current Golf, I think. And in terms of size, it is a slightly smaller car than the Golf. And it's obviously smaller than the new electric Mini that's coming soon. And it's about the same size as the Zoe. Let's have a quick nosy around the boot. There it is. Didn't know where it was. The e-208 has got a 311 litre boot, all right, which drops down. How does that compare to its peers? It's much smaller actually than the Leaf. The Leaf is still king. 435 litres of space for the Leaf. This is bigger than the forthcoming Mini electric boot by miles, but it is slightly smaller than its arch rival, the Zoe 50, because the Zoe's 338 litres and the e-Golf is 341 litres. So the e-Golf has a bigger boot, the Zoe has a slightly bigger boot, the Leaf has a miles bigger boot, but the Mini has a smaller boot. Yes? Oh, and you can't buy this with a spare wheel. It has to have a little puncture repair kit, but a lot of cars these days do. And a 60-40 split for the rear seats. One thing I didn't notice when I first saw this car was the fact that the door line here doesn't follow any other shape of the car. The back door looks much, much shorter than the front door, and it's now annoying me, and I wish I hadn't noticed it. The other thing that annoys me a little bit, and I'm just being pedantic, guys, is that the quite large filler door doesn't follow any kind of contours of the arch or anything else. I don't know, it just looks a bit at odds. And yet that feature, that indentation there on the C-pillar with the E on, is really neat. That's lovely. That's not so lovely. So you push open your big flap and you've got your CCS and your Type 2 charging points. This is just a loose piece of rubber for your CCS, which I don't massively like actually. That's going to get lost, and I don't think there's any light in there to illuminate it at night, which is a little bit of a shame. I've read you can order it with an 11 kilowatt onboard charging system. Yes,
exactly. There's an optional 11 kilowatt, which is a 3-phase onboard charger.
Yeah.
And then you can take indeed, if you charge on an 11 kilowatt wall box, you charge fully the battery in only 5 hours.
In 5?
Yes.
Okay, so that reduces it by about 2.5 hours.
Yes, exactly.
And then if you go the full 100 kilowatt rapid charge DC CCS, half an hour, 0 to 80%.
Exactly.
But of course, you never have 0% because
you're
not a fool.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to sit in the back of these things. 5 seats, 5 door only. The door is quite small to get in. I mean, look at the narrow aperture here compared to the front. But once you're in it, these are well sculpted in for knees. I'm sat behind the seat adjusted to myself as per usual. Map pocket here. Pretty decent headroom. It slopes down. And this is quite a thick C-pillar. 2 USBs. And that's kind of it. It's all right. It's all right in here. I'm a bit worried about the narrowness of the door though. Let's go in the front. Front is the more interesting place, of course. So like I said, bear in mind, this is the range topping car. This is the GT. You've got this higher center console because it's got an electric handbrake, and of course the high voltage runs down there, but it's pleasant. 2 cup holders, wireless charging in here. This is quite cool actually. This thing folds down. You've got a little ledge there. Wireless charging on there and a rubber pad. This is like a shelf. I guess it's a shelf. Yeah, a shelf for pens or even your phone if you want to use the nav of your phone. Another cubby under here with 12 volts there. USB there, USB-C there. The little shifter. It does look like someone diving into a swimming pool, I think. Not a bad thing. But I like it. Piano black, sort of brushed aluminium. It's quality. There's a nice little tactile knob there, and the piano keys here, which has got touch-sensitive controls at the back, and then physical tabs there. Heated seats at the side. I love these seats. I absolutely love the fabric. 3 types of fabric. You got your sort of leather effect. I think it's leather effect. It certainly doesn't look like leather. And then you got your sort of cross stitch weave, grey weave, Alcantara with diamond. It's busy, but I like it. Bit of orange stitching in there, I think it is. No, lime green stitching on there. You got your artificial carbon fibre here. But to be honest, they are comfortable. And I would say this car is probably a little bit harder in terms of suspension than the Zoe. And the Zoe's minimal inside, whereas this is quite active and sculpted. But you've got this 10-inch kind of hanging on a ledge touchscreen. This is all touch. And then you've got this, the iCockpit control, which will look even more impressive when I'm driving. But it's really tunneled into the dash. It's kind of like, it's almost a head-up display, but not quite. 3D depth, and just looks like a pair of mad binoculars. You've got your non-circular steering wheel, which I've talked about before, and it's not an EV only thing. I don't mind it. Some people don't like it, but you can adjust the rake of the wheel quite a lot actually. There's a lot of depth and adjustability going on here. I like this dash. I think it's cool. If you prefer minimal, I think you'll prefer the Zoe. Obviously, this is not Peugeot's first electric car.
No, it's not. So we currently have the Ion, the Partner and the Partner TP, which are electric. And the first one even dates back to 1941.
Did you do an electric car in 41?
Yes, we did. A car which is called a VLV, which was the initials in French for Voiturette légère de ville. So a small car for the city.
Sounds clearly so much better in French. Say that again.
Voiturette légère de ville.
It's that. The first electric car in 1941
1941. So yes, we had 106, we have J5, yes, we had a few cars, so it's not the first one.
All in all then, this is a car that is predictably good. It's good looking, it feels well built actually, it feels like a quality piece. These cars are now coming out in the sweet spot, aren't they? Your sort of early 20s to late 20s, £1,000 budget. When the base model ID3 comes out, that will be firmly in this area too. Things are hotting up in the EV, 20-something grand EV world, with a lot of quality long-range cars. Yes.
The battery itself is cooled with water, yes. And so this is clearly a strong point of the e-208 because we can access high-speed chargers. We can charge up to 100 kilowatt in only 30 minutes, and so this is clearly due to the cooling of the battery, which is done with the liquid.
You can preheat this car, and you can do it using the app, and you can set your times of departure and stuff on screen like you can a lot of EVs now. And what will follow this car is the high-up brother of the 208, which is the 2008. And the 2008 is going to have the same drivetrain, and we'll be almost certainly test driving that in the not too distant future. And what comes after the 2008 in terms of EV? Would there be the 3008 or the 308? Are there any plans in place for full EV, the bigger models? Or?
For now, we're launching, as you said, the 208 and the 2008. Then we're focusing on our LCVs, light commercial vans. So we're launching the Boxer electric, also the e-Expert and e-Traveler, and then we will have the e-Partner and e-Rifter. So very important.
The e-Rifter?
Yes.
I've been waiting for the e-Rifter because I remember there was a concept, wasn't there?
Yes, there was a four-wheel drive concept. Yes.
I can't wait for the vans. Can't wait for the Rifter, e-Rifter, that'll be cool. Yeah. So what do we think of the e-208? I would like you guys to comment on this video. I'd really want to know whether you tend to prefer a familiar looking car that happens to be electric, or something that looks very distinctive and people know it's electric. So when you buy it, you're telling the world, I drive an EV and I'm proud. What camp are you in? There's a whole line of 208s because we're on the launch. You can't really tell which one's the diesel, the petrol and the electric, and that's kind of the point. That's Peugeot's approach. It's like, we just want the car to look good and be normalised, and you just pick that you just happen to want an E1. I'm going to just give it a charge. Do you know, and that's where I'm at with it. If you want something that's visually all new and actually very, very good looking, then this is the car for you. But for similar money and a slightly longer range, you could go for the Zoe 50. Not quite as strong 0 to 62, but the old faithful. Had a tech lift, but the old faithful. Or do you go for something like the Leaf? No, I wouldn't go for the Leaf. I think if I was going to buy one of these, I would try the latest Zoe first and vice versa. Because it depends if you want minimal insides and sort of graceful outsides, or you want this, which is all new blatantly, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more strong looking. Lots to like. I'd like to drive it on UK roads just to make sure that the ride is good enough. As usual, thank you so much for watching Fully Charged. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, like this episode. If you haven't already, press the bell function, press that, and then you'll be alerted to our episodes. Typically we put 2 out a week. We're trying quite hard. If you're a Patreon subscriber, we are working hard for your money. Thank you very much for subscribing. If you don't know what Patreon is, have a look at the Patreon link. Thank you ever so much. I'm going for a coffee.